Tiger fans, let me ask you something. Is Clemson baseball the real deal? Because after a 4-0 sweep of the weekend, I think we're starting to see something really special brewing in Tiger Town. Dominant pitching, clutch hitting, depth everywhere. That's all coming up right now on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? It's Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of this show, and part-time host and producer over on 105.5 and 97.5 The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and notification bell over on YouTube so you can never miss an episode, and also subscribe and follow over wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to follow me over on X at The Morgan T Show, where I am up to my usual antics as always. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Clemson baseball and if they are proving that they are elite or not. We're going to talk about Clemson basketball and what we said would happen against the SMU Mustangs and what we got right, maybe some things that we missed a little bit, but overall, big time win from the Tigers there. And then finally, we're going to finish out the show talking about Clemson softball, because you know I love some Clemson softball. And so I want to give them some love and talk about their strengths and weaknesses, what they're doing moving forward, and how they are improving. Because really, those three teams that we mentioned are all improving as the season is continuing, and it is great to see. Now, basketball is getting towards the end of the season. We'll talk about them in segment 2. But baseball, softball really just getting started, and both are kind of coming into their own and winning games in different ways, but being dominant while doing it. So are the Clemson baseball Tigers the real deal? So far, I'd like to say that they are doing things that they need to do to be one of the best teams in the country. They didn't just sweep the weekend. They did so in dominant fashion. 4 wins, really kind of 4 different ways, beating some of these mid-major teams, but handling business in the best possible way, in every possible way. The weekend recap, Clemson played VCU twice. They played North Carolina A&T twice, kind of bouncing back and forth between the two. VCU, they won 6-2 the first game against VCU. Second game against VCU, 4-3. Both were kind of gritty, grinded out wins, but pitching did really well in both games. Aiden Kanak, another guy who is your ace, and he is continuing to do really well. If you look at his pitching overall right now, Kanak is ERA is a little bit higher, but he's got 9 innings pitched and only allowed 8 hits and 6 earned runs, 15 strikeouts, which is really kind of the highlight of his season so far. He's just a guy that can really shut you down once he gets on a roll. So I like what I see from him. He got a win for you as well. So good times there. And then against North Carolina A&T, Clemson's offense explodes in the first game, 12-7, 16 total hits for the team. And then the last game, which was yesterday, which was 4-2, and Lugernick came in and Justin showed that maybe we shouldn't have written him off early on, just after one Sunday pitching session. So a few things that we learned from this weekend is that Clemson can definitely win close games. They didn't panic under pressure, and you like that. You want them to be able to build on that as the season progresses, and really it's something that you would like to see definitely in the late part of the season, but it's good to see it at the beginning. Now, I know that there are a ton of games left, so I don't want to get too excited about being able to grind out these close game wins and not folding under pressure, but it is a good sign so far because there's a lot of new faces on this team. Really, they seem to be working well together. I mean, when you look at this, the other thing I wrote down is, where's the weakness? I don't see a ton of weaknesses when it comes to the bullpen, when it comes to the starting pitching staff, when it comes to the batting lineup from top to bottom, I mean, when you look at it, let's think about it. You've got Dominic Listy absolutely tearing it up right now, 435 average. Tristan McGladdy, I know a lot of people were kind of questioning what's he doing in the lineup, man. Well, what did he do? He just went in there and just dominated. I mean, a multi-position guy who has good base running and had clutch at bats this weekend. How can you not like what you saw from number 4 there? He's the second best batting average on the team. So then you've got the transfer guys that we know and love so far, Colin Priest and Josh Pano. Those guys are batting both above 300 and really killing it right now. Maybe you could kind of nitpick and say Cam Cannarella is striking out a lot right now. He's got one of the higher strikeouts. Luke Gaffney also strikes out a ton, but both of those guys can seem to deliver when they need to, and I think will improve as the season goes on. So I'm not too worried about any of the guys on the team, especially on the batting lineup. And then the pitching staff seems to be incrementally improving. They're able to get guys in there, and Malstedt's doing good. Titsworth doing great from the bullpen. We like what we see from Darden. Garris is doing great from the bullpen as well. Honestly, Malstedt, Garris, Allen, Titsworth. I mean, that bullpen is just nasty when you look at these 4 guys. So I'd like to throw those guys in there anytime. Dvorsky, also don't want to forget about him. He seems to be doing well. McGovern has a higher ERA, but I like what he's able to do. I like his stuff. And again, Lugernik was able to have a good Sunday game as well. So I like where the pitching staff is going. I like where the batting is right now. I mean, there's really not a ton of weaknesses in my opinion. So you'll have to let me know over in the comments over on YouTube or reach out to me over on X. I'd love to talk to you about Clemson baseball. I think that the team so far is really exciting to watch, and not able to kill you in the home run ball. Only 10 home runs so far, but still able to win in many different ways. Depth is doing great, and they're playing like a top 5 team, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just too excited. Maybe I'm getting too caught up in it right now, but I really feel like this weekend has been great. They only got 1 loss. They're 6-1 overall. So I really like kind of where the baseball team is heading. And, I feel like when you look at, some of the biggest questions from the previous weekend, we were kind of worried about the Sunday pitcher. Well, Lugernik kind of rebounded. We were worried about Cam Cannarella. Has he gotten a little bit better? It's up and down right now for him. And is Clemson a legitimate contender to get in the College Baseball World Series? I think with the balance that they have, with the depth that they have on the team, I really like what I see so far. So it's kind of hard to find I guess I wouldn't even say a lot, but it's kind of hard to find any kind of flaws from this baseball team. So I like it a lot. I'm excited about where it's going so far, and what Eric Bakich has put together for this team. Let me know what you think. Who is your favorite player so far? I mean, out of the gate, Dominic Listy to me has got to be my number 1. I did not realize just how good he was going to be in getting this opportunity. The guy has had 23 at bats, 7 runs, 10 hits, 2 doubles, 11 RBIs, 12 total bases. He gets a walk 6 walks. It looks like the highest on the team in base on balls, and he gets hit by the pitch as well. And he doesn't ever strike out. So, I mean, Listy's just having a great start to the season, and Priest as well. I was really high on him to begin the season. I really wasn't kind of as aware of Listy until now. And man, it is great to have him be a part of the Clemson team. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. I think, I'm looking forward to what's coming up this weekend. If you look at Clemson's baseball schedule, again, right now they're 6-1. They're going to play Winthrop tomorrow at 4 p.m. And then they've got the weekend of all weekends against the hated rivals of South Carolina this coming weekend, February 28th through March 2nd. So be looking forward to that as they travel around the state, Clemson, Greenville, and Columbia, to play the Gamecocks. So already getting into the rivalry game, which is kind of exciting as well. All right. Next segment, we're going to get into that Clemson basketball game. I told you what my thoughts were in our last podcast about on Friday, what I thought Clemson should do to beat SMU. Well, they beat them big time. Was I right or wrong? Was there anything that shocked me from the SMU game? We'll talk about it right after this. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you can pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, I'm looking at possibly an NBA play. I like Luka a lot. I like where he's at with the Lakers, so I'm curious to see what he can do. Maybe there's something out there with Jason Tatum or Anthony Davis if he ever gets back from being injured again. But the fact is, it's fast, it's easy, and it keeps every game exciting. And when I win, the money gets to my account within 15 minutes. That's crazy. No waiting around. You get your money when you win. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, so the Clemson men's basketball team are absolutely doing great. They beat SMU, really had a lead the entire time, had opportunity to beat them even more than just by 10, 79-69, and close at halftime, but really kind of pulled away in the second half. And I think another just complete win, taking care of business against SMU, exactly why this team is going to be dangerous. In March, they're going to be dangerous in the ACC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. Clemson went 14 of 29 from three-point land, 48.3%. Now, I'm telling you, when they go 48.3%, it's going to be hard to beat the Tigers, and I like that. I was worried that SMU would do that, but I said, if SMU can stay relatively cold and Clemson can do what they always do, then they'll be great. Now, I thought Clemson needed to win the turnover battle. I thought that they needed to I thought that they were going to need to win the three-point range, win the three-point battle as well. But they did get the three-point battle, but they did not win in the rebounds. So they got out-rebounded, which was kind of interesting, 39-24. But 5 things that I think Clemson did well. Well, they forced SMU into shooting bad three-pointers, and they were just 8 of 25 from deep. And I think that was something that we had mentioned many times that they definitely needed to do to be able to beat SMU this weekend. So not only were they really good from three-point land, not only did they get force SMU to be pretty bad from three-point range, but they had 18 points off of turnovers, which really showed how fast they were playing. A lot of those were just immediately fast breaks, returns to the basket. I think Clemson kept the pace going really well, and I like that. SMU tried to fight back really late, but the damage was already done. Clemson's defense, their three-point shooting, and their ability to continue the pace going was really, really cool to see from a Brad Brownell team. And I said after the game, it's kind of interesting to see how Brad Brownell has been able to develop this team, build them, and put them, and really kind of put the roster together from the start of the season. It is really, really cool. So when you look back at some of the questions that we had from, the previous podcast that we were talking about, did Clemson do what they needed to do from three-point range? Well, I said they really didn't need to do great from three-point range as long as they out-rebounded them and played really good defense. Well, they played really good defense, so that was great. They shut down their shooting, but they didn't get out-rebounded. But where did they make it up? They made it up from three-point range. When you look at it, Ian Shefflin was 2 for 3. Victor Locken was 2 for 4. Jaden Zachary, the star of the game, I think, was 5 for 8. And then Chase Hunter was 3 for 5. So when Clemson shoots the ball like they did against SMU, they're not just a tough team. I mean, they're probably the best team in the ACC, period. When you're talking about 48% from 3 on the road, by the way, I know Faxon had mentioned this on 105.5 The Roar, being road warriors as they are, that's elite level shooting. And it wasn't just one guy. I mean, Jaden Zachary, as I mentioned, was on fire. Chase Hunter was knocking them down. Ian Shefflin was knocking them down. And here's the thing. Clemson is not just showing us that they are just streaky or hot. SMU is the team to me that is just streaky and gets hot at certain times. Clemson's not just kind of a 20-win team that's kind of a little bit fraudulent. Clemson is a 22-win team that is built for the postseason, and they have a well-rounded roster. When they move the ball well, when they take smart shots, when they use the pace and the floor like they did, it's almost impossible to guard them. And you just can't leave anybody open at any moment in time. Now, I'm not talking like they're going to always shoot all the threes lights out, but I'm even talking like mid-range jumpers. This team does really well. Locken's doing a lot better back to the basket. So is Shefflin. This could be one of the most dangerous Clemson basketball teams we've ever seen. I mean, how many basketball teams have been from Brad Brownell or any team in the past have been this versatile, have been this dangerous from many different ways? I mean, Zachary, in a lot of ways, he can have a quiet night and be one of the key players for the win. But against SMU, he came out just really swinging 19 overall points. And again, 5 for 8 and from 3. He wasn't just good. He was electric. He became a go-to shooter. And I didn't even think, I was kind of questioning what his role really is other than facilitator. But it kind of was nice to see what he can do when he gets out of his, breaks out of his shell, I guess you could say. He did so with confidence against SMU. He didn't hesitate when he got the ball in open space. He didn't second guess himself. He just let the ball fly. An elite shooter when he believes in himself. And I think we need to see more of that. And it goes back to like why Clemson isn't streaky is because when one guy's down, typically there's somebody else to pick up the momentum and the pace there. With Locken on the inside, he's an absolute beast. You got Shefflin as well to help out. Zachary being able to do that on the outside with the other guys in rotation, I mean, it is absolutely killer. Clemson could be one of the better 3-point shooters in the country. They might, I believe, they might be the one, statistically speaking, one of the best, if not the best, in the ACC. So they're definitely not a fluke 3-pointing team. They're not a fluke versatile team. They just are winning all around. Now, what really shocked me from the SMU game was not winning the rebound game. I mean, I felt like that they were going to win the rebound game. It didn't make any sense to me that they wouldn't. So I thought, okay, you just play tough defense. Doesn't matter if you're hot shooting. You play tough defense and you win the rebounding game. You stay out of foul trouble. Clemson's going to win that game 9 times out of 10. But I got to be honest with you, they didn't dominate the boards, and in some games that could have been a huge problem for them. SMU won the rebounding battle 39-24. Not great, but you don't want to give up second chance points and expect to win against bigger, stronger teams. But the reality is Clemson didn't really have to dominate the glass to win because they shot lights out, 48% from 3. And when you're shooting that well, I mean, does rebounding really matter at that point? You'd like to see Clemson clean that up? Sure, absolutely. You want them to be physical inside, boxing out a little bit more, maybe not get manhandled as much as they did. But again, as long as you are shooting well, those areas can kind of slack off a little bit. Clemson is definitely a physical team. They definitely know how to box out. Ian Shefflin knows how to rebound. He finished with 5 total rebounds, which is kind of underneath what he normally does in the game, not leading the team. It's kind of shocking when you see an Ian Shefflin stat line where he doesn't have 10 rebounds. But matchups are key when it comes to basketball. That's what I'm curious is how it's going to go in the ACC tournament and then in the NCAA tournament. It really falls into matchups. So if you're going to get really on the hype train right now with Clemson basketball, I understand that, and I'm not telling you not to. But what I am telling you is just be careful with the matchups when it comes to tournament ball, because you never know. Just certain teams match up better against other teams. So you never know how it's going to shake out. But I do think Clemson is versatile enough to be a matchup nightmare for most teams that are out there. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree. I'm really curious, kind of the fan pulse on this. But to me, Brad Brownell has a masterclass in the 2025 season on building this roster, developing this roster, and getting them peaking and working well together at the right times. It is just pretty amazing to see. I hate this kind of part of college basketball, because you know that it's not going to last forever. These guys don't stick around, the entire time. So you can't really rely on the basketball team to stay together for 10 years of a contract, because that's just not how it works. So really excited about where the Clemson basketball team is going. Hey, what are they looking at for the rest of the season? There's not many regular season games to go. There's only 4. You have Notre Dame, which is Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And then this weekend at Virginia, 12 p.m. And then next weekend, you just got 2 games left in the regular season at Boston College on March 5th and versus Virginia Tech on March 8th. All right, everybody, we're going to switch over and talk a little bit about Clemson softball and finish up the night. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, and you get paid instantly when you win. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets for your first $5. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we're going to finish this show off with the Clemson softball team, and they have had a great weekend so far. We talked about Clemson baseball and gave them a lot of love and support for what they did this weekend. Clemson softball also had a great weekend. They finished up with a Clemson Classic themselves starting on Thursday. Boy band night against Charlotte coming back, Tuesday was boy band night against Charlotte. We talked about that. And then they started with Elon on Friday, and that was the Clemson Classic where they got a win versus Elon 4-3. Villanova, they went into 8 innings and won 1-0. Marshall, they played back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, 8-3 win there, and then an 8-0 win in just 5 innings. So got a run rule as well. So when you look at Clemson softball so far, you really kind of, they're really young team. And my former co-host over on my radio show, 105.5 The Roar, Houston Burnett, he texted me and he said, hey, I was looking at the roster for the Clemson softball team, and they're just very young. So I don't want to be as critical as I have been about past teams. And that I think is true. I mentioned to him that, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare them to a previous team. And also this team is definitely very young. They have a lot of new faces on the team from transfers, but they also have a lot of true freshmen as well. And those true freshmen are doing great for sure. Now, Clemson, what do we know is right? What do we know about Clemson's strength so far? Well, when you look at their batting stats, you've got Maddie Moore. She's a superstar second baseman, batting .412. Julian Noller right behind her, 373. Sam Minish, new player on the team, 368. Alex Brown, the leadoff hitter, she's batting 365. Ava Wilson, freshman there, she's batting 344. Macy Cintron, another freshman, she's batting 310. Kennedy Ariels batting 300. Abby Vieira's 275. Miriam Collins, another true freshman, she's batting 268. And then Jamison Brockenborough, she's batting 244. So this is probably the first time that I've seen, and the youngest team, but even when they had more experienced batters at the plate, this team did not have this many batters in the mid to high 300s in the batting average. And I think that's one pivot for this team in 2025 versus last season and previous season's team. This offense is legit. It is definitely their strength. We've said it since the beginning of the season. Clemson lives and dies by the bat, and they are very good at the bat. The trend has continued through this weekend at Clemson, and I felt like, it was really good for Clemson softball to get a little bit of home cooking. They needed to be able to see and feel what it was like to play at Clemson with their fan base there, and Clemson fan base did not disappoint, even though it was kind of cold out there for sure. They scored 8 runs against Marshall twice and 14 versus Charlotte. So, they got the power. They're able to bring up runs, still getting big time numbers from Julia Noller against Charlotte. I mean, she hit one off the top of the scoreboard, which could have gone much further. Macy Centron, she's a pitcher / hitter, kind of like your Valerie Cagle type. I don't want to give her that kind of jinx, that kind of expectations, but she is doing really, really well. And Ava Wilson, a freshman as well, who is hitting just lights out from the left-hand side of the plate. Run production is coming from multiple spots in the lineup, not just 3, because when you look at it, again, I think if you look at the starting lineup, out of 9 batters, you have 6 or 7 that are batting 300 or better. So that is what's really driving this team and being able to keep them going, even when they are playing from behind. Now, I said that's one thing that we want to see them improve on is playing from behind, and that kind of revolves around their pitching staff and how how they handle adversity and how they're able to place their pitches, because they're not going to be a staff that blows you by with, really fast pitches, but they are going to be able to, if they can place it, they can really get you off balance and win the game that way. So, and get the ball in play where they're easy out. So we've been pushing for Reese Basinger to be the ace that she was brought in to be, transfer from Winthrop. And in the last few games, she's actually proven why. She's gotten back on track. Complete game shutout against Villanova, 8 innings pitched, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, 5 innings shutout against Marshall, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts. Her ERA has now dropped below 2, and she is by far Clemson's most reliable pitcher, which is actually what we thought she would be. So it's good to see her kind of shaking off that early season rust when she saw that in Florida, and now it's kind of getting into the form that we had expected. Now, the defense is still kind of inconsistent. We're seeing some errors here and there. Abby Vieira has 3 errors this season, and, they had a bunch of costly errors against Charlotte. They kept bringing the 49ers back into play in that game, but they are improving as the weekend goes on. Against weaker teams, but against those stronger teams, it's going to be even more important. You have to play really, really well on defense, because it's a small field on softball, and you don't have a lot of room for mistakes, because one mistake gets a runner on base, the runner then all of a sudden is on third base before you know it. Where were we skeptical about Clemson being successful, but where are they kind of showing that they're better than we maybe thought? And a little bit skeptical. I would say Clemson can win in low-scoring games as well. I've been saying, at least at the start of the season, it seemed like Clemson could only win in slugfest. I mean, they really just, had to have better bats than the others, because they weren't going to stop them. But the 1-0 extra inning win over Villanova proved that they can also grind it out as well, as long as they have a pitcher like Basinger to kind of hold their own. Just run 1 run in 7 hits, but still won the game, was really good for the offense, and also Basinger keeping them into that. So maybe they can be a team that can win close games. I'm curious to see how they can continue that as they start getting into more consistent ACC play. And another thing that I thought maybe kind of like talking about Lou Gehrig a little bit too early is maybe talking about Brooke McCubbin too early. She's not been too bad. She's getting a little bit better. We've been a little bit critical about her in early innings and her struggles. She was solid against Marshall, though. 5.5 innings, 5.2 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, and 7 strikeouts. Now, at times, she can still get hit pretty hard and give up a big lead early on in a game. But when she can settle in and she has run support from the Clemson offense, which typically you will, she can show that she can be a capable number 2 starter for the team. Maybe not your go-to starter against elite teams or in the conference games. It's going to be Basinger, I think, for the most part. But she is showing us that maybe, just maybe, we don't write her off just yet. It's still early for her also to kind of shake off the early season rust and get into it. Now, she is one of those ones that's been with the team forever now. So we would love to see her, become more consistent as well. Pitching staff right now, Olivia Duncan hasn't got a lot of opportunities. She's a sophomore now. I'm curious to see if she will get some more opportunities. She hasn't really had a lot, but Reese Basinger 1.99, so just under 2. Macy Cintron 3.67 ERA, and then Melanchuk is 4.2 ERA, and Brooke McCubbin at 4.25. So the girls, though, all their ERAs are getting better as the season is progressing. So that's what they're trending in the right direction. And the bottom line, though, for Clemson softball is that the lineup as a whole is improving. Brockenborough, Vieira, Collins, they're all starting to contribute a little bit more. Abby Vieira, I was a little bit critical of her because I said, hey, she needs to step it up because she's a veteran on the team now. She had a 3-hit game against Marshall, hitting .350 in her last few games. And Brockenborough had a game-winning hit against Villanova. So I think that she came in to transfer from Tennessee to bring an extra little bit of pop on the bat, and she's starting to also kind of shake it off. So this team kind of got made you a little bit nervous at the beginning of the season, but to me, they're getting a little bit better as the season goes on. So exciting to see. I'm excited to continue the discussion this week. We'll be having more discussion on Clemson basketball, baseball, and softball. Also, I am putting together the same thing we did for Clemson football and the PFF grades and where we think they were right and wrong. I'm also getting ready to do it for Clemson football on the offensive side of the ball as well. So I'm curious to see how that all shakes out and to see what y'all think as well. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Schott and Andy Patton. Don't wait for March to be the most informed college basketball fan now. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to follow me over on X and subscribe to this podcast or YouTube wherever you're watching it or listening to it. So thank you so much for the support and love as always. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow and we'll see you at the top of the hill.